Здравейте! Искам да благодаря на всички хора, които и допълнително се присъединиха, защото освен хората, които присъстваха на целите 2 дни на конференцията, имаме една голяма група от хора, които сега се присъединиха. И тъй като това, което прави Željko Khermayer, е насочено към помагане и съдействие на хората, които имат зрителни увреждания, аз много се радвам, че тук имаме сред залата хора, които ще могат да чуят за това какво той прави, какво е неговото решение. Така че без повече забавяне му давам думата. Помолили сме го да разкаже за неговото решение, но въобще за цялостната му дейност. И много му благодаря, че прие нашата покана. So please, you can start. Thank you. Željko.
Hello. Innovations are created through out-of-the-box innovative thinking. So let's engage our innovative thinking. Who would like to do a thought experiment? Come on, raise your hands. Come on, everybody must do this. I promise it won't hurt. Okay. So imagine that you are alone at your home and you have a broken leg and you have a smartphone. How can you call for help? Well, this one is easy. You just dial a number, of course. But what if the situation is a little different? So it's the same situation, except that you are deaf and blind. What do you do? You are deaf and blind. So this one is tougher, isn't it? It turns out that all you need is a piece of cardboard to be able to use your smartphone. Would you like to know how? I'll tell you our story. So it was November 2013. I was passing through a living room where my wife was watching TV. And from some unknown reason, it just got my attention. I just stood there and started watching the TV. And on the air was a show about deaf-blind people in Slovenia. I realized how lonely and isolated they are. Because they can only communicate through touch, by touching other person's hand. So they cannot use phone or an email for communication. And the device which enables them to communicate remotely costs 10,000 euro. And because most of deaf-blind people are on welfare, they cannot afford it. So they sit at home and they wait for a social worker to bring the meal, and that's how they spend their days. And when journalists asked one deaf-blind woman how many friends that she has, she said a lot. How much is that? 1, she replied. And most deaf-blind people do not even have one friend. And that just moved me. I thought that's wrong. I thought that there must be a way how to integrate them into society, how to enable them to communicate cheaply. And I thought that I must do something. I must solve this problem, because obviously nobody has done that. So I thought if I enable them to use a smartphone, I would solve a communication problem, because smartphones are affordable. But how can a person who cannot see and cannot hear use a smartphone? That's when I thought of vibrations. That's something that they can feel. So I got an idea. I took my business card and punched a hole in it, several holes. So with my eyes closed, I put this business card over the touchscreen, over my phone, and with my eyes closed, I tried to figure out whether I know in which hole my finger is. And that was very easy. I could feel when I moved from one hole to another. And the phone also knew where my finger was. So that's how I created a new type of Braille alphabet, where instead of pins rising up and forming a letter, there were no pins, there were only holes as placeholders, and one had to touch all the holes, so all 6 or 8 of them, you know, and when you touch a hole where in normal braille a raised pin would be, the phone would vibrate. So by knowing which hole you are touching and feeling whether the phone is vibrating or not, one could recognize letters. I searched the internet to see if somebody has thought of that before, and I couldn't find anything. I was amazed that nobody has done something like that before, and I was so excited. So, because I never had a contact with deaf-blind people before, I only saw them on a TV. In order to share and test my discovery, I contacted the organization for deaf-blind people in Slovenia. And I got in contact with a lady who is running that organization. She was also in that documentary I watched. And I thought that she will be as excited as I am about this new discovery. So we set up a meeting, and I went to her office, and we talked. And soon, during this meeting, I realized that she doesn't care much about my innovation. What she cared about was how much money they will get from the government. They are actually competing for members with 2 other bigger organizations, for deaf and for blind. So for them, it is very important that a person is declared deaf-blind, which means they get money, instead of being declared just deaf or just blind. But she promised to help me with some contacts and to test my innovation with her members. And when I was just about to leave, she said something that stayed in my memory. She said that she's also working on an innovation of her own. I found that strange. Why is she telling me that now, and what has that to do with anything we talked? But then after the meeting, there was no word from her. She never did what she had promised to do. No deaf-blind person learned nor tested my innovation. But it happened that sometime later, the Society of Slovenian Innovators organized innovation fair, and they asked me to exhibit there, and I was honored. And on that fair, my innovation was recognized as one of the best, and media picked it up, and there was a big article in newspaper about that. So then my phone rang, and that lady from deaf-blind organization called me, and she asked me to present my innovation to her members. I accepted that invitation, and I went there. I went there to present RDBC. That's abbreviation for Real Deaf-Blind Communicator. That's how we called our solution. It's a very strange name, RDBC. So you can see it on a picture here. It was a phone with this plastic grid over it, and with rubber bands. Rubber bands are holding it together. Yeah. So there was a room full of people, but only a few deaf-blind people were there. And among them, only one deaf-blind gentleman who also knew Braille alphabet. Now, to present something to a deaf-blind person, you need a translator. I can't talk to a deaf-blind person. I don't know their language. So I presented to translator, and she translated that through touch to that deaf-blind gentleman. And then when he tried RDBC, and when I saw that he's not using it correctly, I just couldn't say, okay, now to correct him. But I had to pull the phone away from him, and he was grasping it really, really hard. So then a translator explained him what's an issue, and then he tried again. So in spite of all this, it took him only half an hour to learn how to read and write his name on RDBC. And that was great success. That was first deafblind person to test my innovation, and it worked as I imagined. I was very happy and excited. And after presentation, I went to her office, and I thought that after this, when she saw how RDBC is performing and what can be done, that she would be more eager to participate in this process to help deafblind people. But I was wrong. She was very cold and looked irritated by my presence and basically told me, well, you are done, now you can leave. And I never heard from her after that. That was it. But it happened that in November 2014, so sometime after that meeting, after that presentation, I was presenting RDBC on another exhibition of Slovenian innovations, and a man approached me, and he knew everything about RDBC and about me. And I was flattered, and I thought, wow, how does he know so much, you know? And then he explained that he and his colleagues are working on that lady's innovation, and that he was at that presentation I had at their organization, so they were there, and that's where he learned about RDBC. And they had some technical problems they couldn't solve, and he asked me how we solved this in RDBC. So, as you see, the situation we had was not very good. So then it came the year 2015. Situation was bad for us. Actually, everybody was telling me this is a great innovation. Everybody wanted to take a picture with me. Everybody wanted to shake hands. But investors didn't want to commit, and we couldn't get funds. And my company, 4Web, which is digital agency, was financing this project for the whole time. And because I spent so much time on it, I neglected 4Web, and it started to show. So we were running out of money. And plus, we didn't have access to deafblind people in Slovenia. And we needed deafblind people for testing and developing product. But if I wanted to get in touch with them, I had to go through that organization for deafblind people. And the other option would be to access them abroad, to go to Austria or Croatia. And I made some contacts with them, but that is very, that would just increase the costs, because you need to travel there, and it's bad for development if you don't have access to the community locally. So, plus I learned that there is no market. You cannot sell to deafblind people. And there are only 2 million deafblind people in the world, which is, don't get me wrong, it's great. I wish there are none, But from the business perspective, that is not so good. So, but mostly because we didn't have access to the community, we turned to blind. And communication with blind people was great. I mean, I could just go and talk with them. And through that, I learned what challenges they face. So, one day, what I want to say is that when we talk with the blind, I also realize that RDBC was not adequate for blind. Blind people, they read all 8 dots of a Braille cell, so one letter just by swiping the finger, so at once. So RDBC was too slow for them, and they also didn't need a communication device. So one day I was talking with my wife about this situation, and by the way, she was supporting me through the whole process. And she said that there are no interactive digital books for blind kids online. And we knew that with our technology, we can enable them to feel shapes on a touchscreen. So, because blind people couldn't feel shapes on a touchscreen, there was a lot of digital content they just couldn't access. And she said that we should try to help them overcome that gap. And that's how we converted RDBC, so this demo device we had. We made some quick fixes on it and arranged to present it to the School of Blind Children in Ljubljana. And I went there and presented it to the teachers of blind kids. And they had a meeting before the beginning of the new school year. So it was the end of August 2015. And all teachers were present, somewhere around 40 of them. And I got a chance to present them Feelif. It wasn't called Feelif yet, you know. But before I started our presentation, I passed the demo unit around so they could try it. And the presentation went okay. Some teachers, usually younger ones, loved the new idea. And some were more reserved as they preferred traditional stuff. So lively discussion was created between them. And after presentation, a computer science teacher came to me. And he was all excited and he said, "This thing really works." And then he explained that when he listened to me, that he thought, no, this cannot work, you know. But then when he tried the device, you know, he realized that it works. So the school agreed to help us, you know, and they formed a group of teachers who volunteered to work with us. And that was really great. And that's when Feelif was born. So in order to prove that Feelif really works, teachers demanded that we test it with their blind students. So there were 3 teachers supervising the test, and they brought 3 blind kids. And they said that we have to turn any speech and music and voice, so everything should be turned off, and only through vibration they must detect shapes. And these were kids that never used Feelif before, so they had no prior training, nothing. You can imagine that we were very nervous. And, but, I mean, Feelif passed the test with 200% success. So you might ask, how can it be 200% success, you know? So that's a catch. So all kids detected all the shapes. So that's it. But how accurately they did it was amazing. There was a blind girl, and she had the triangle, this first one here, to detect, and it would be just okay if she said, this is a triangle, you know. But no, she said, it's a right-angle triangle with 2 equal sides. And I said, yes, it's a triangle, it has 2 equal sides, but it's not right angle, you know. And she said, no, here is right angle, and she pointed at it. And I was amazed. I mean, we created this triangle that is right angle just by chance, so I didn't even thought of it that it is right angle triangle. And then there was the last student to test it was a boy. His name is Tim, and he was blind from the birth. And one of the teachers took Feelif and free-handedly draw triangle on it. And he had to detect it. And he said, it's a 5-angle shape. No, Tim, it is not. Please try it again. You know, my colleague Katerina was talking with him with a calm voice. I was quiet because I was too nervous, you know, to be useful. And then he tried again, and he said again, it is 5-angle shape. And Katerina said, no, Tim, and she tried to help him. But Tim got frustrated, pushed Feelif away, and with his sweaty finger, he drew on a table what he was feeling. And when we all looked at this picture, the shivers ran through me, because I realized that this is exactly what Feelif was showing to him. You see, he couldn't see a triangle, but he could feel its representation. And because the tactile resolution is much smaller, much smaller than it is visual one, there are much less tactile dots on the screen than there are pixels on the screen. When you decrease the resolution, the line that looks straight on the screen becomes a step line. So if you ever draw in some drawing software, when you have a straight line and you move one side, and one side is fixed, and the line it's connected all the way. When you move it just a little, the line doesn't go smoothly, but it goes like a step function, because you have a limited number of pixels there, So it's the same here with tactile dots. So he felt these steps, and for him, this shape was not a triangle, This shape was what he felt, And but anyhow, the point is that he felt exactly what Feelif was showing to him, and that was the ultimate proof that Feelif works. So then we learned that every 4 years, experts from the field, so teachers, scientists, doctors, meet on ISAVI conference, and they also organize a competition for the best innovation on that conference. And we knew that we had to be there, to present Feelif to them. And but the problem was that we couldn't enter that. We couldn't just go there. We had to be nominated. But in order to nominate us, it has to be done through our Slovenian representative. And we learned that there is our Slovenian representative turns out to be a teacher on that same school, we are working with. So we set up a meeting with her in the school, and there were also teachers who were there when we tested Feelif. And although Feelif passed the test, she was reluctant to nominate us. And she said that Feelif must first prove itself in a classroom. So if we get a positive review from the teacher in a classroom, she will nominate us. And this competition we wanted to enter was for innovations, and it didn't require to have a working product, But these were her terms, and we didn't have any other options, so we agreed on that. And we had only, less than 1 month and a half till nomination deadline. So we decided that we will digitalize learning process for learning Braille alphabet. We got in contact with a teacher who was teaching kids Braille, and we saw what exercises they do, and we digitalized the lessons, the exercises, and we created a digital version of that. So for that purpose, we created lesson, games, and a test. And yeah, we had lots of bugs and problems, but we managed to solve all of them. And just days till the nomination deadline, we got positive review from the teacher. And you can imagine we were happy and excited, and we called our Slovenian representative to inform her, and so she would nominate us. But then she said that the opinion of that particular teacher doesn't mean anything to her. And she refused to nominate us. And that was a teacher, her colleague from the same school she's working. So they're from the same school, and she found her opinion unworthy. That was dead end. The opportunity to present Feelif to international experts, which happens every 4 years, like Olympic Games, was lost. We were really disappointed, and I wrote her a passionate but very, very polite letter. Maybe that was a mistake, I don't know, but she never replied. But from that moment, teachers became more reluctant to work with us, They didn't want to do any written reviews. And what we later learned, that they have some power games between them, and teachers were probably intimidated and scared. And to know that happened at the beginning of 2017. So in October 2017, Feelif became the best social innovation in Europe. And to put that in perspective, no Slovenian company has ever achieved that. So in the meantime, parents learned from their children about Feelif. And parents have an association of parents of blind children. And they invited us to present Feelif to them. And I went there and presented Feelif, and we got so much support, emotional and practical. We got our first customers there, and some of them became our ambassadors. With their support and support of their children, we were able to further develop Feelif. And these are really amazing people. Till this day, we are still in contact with them and we are working with them. We had amazing 2017. A lot of good things happened. We got grant and loans, and we expanded our team, and at the end of the year, Feelif became the best social innovation in Europe. But winning on such a prestigious competition gave us lots of publicity. So one day, we got an email from Google. Yeah, right, yeah. Somebody's joking with us. That's what I thought, yeah. But then I said, well, maybe I should check this, And I went on LinkedIn and checked the guy, and it turns out that a person with that name really exists, and it really works for Google. So I sent him this email, from LinkedIn, and basically asked him, did you really contacted us, And he said, yes, I did. So Google invited us to present them Feelif in their Brussels office. So I went there and presented Feelif, and we connected with Google. And that was in February of this year. So this year we deliberately didn't sign up for competitions, because winning on competitions is not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to help blind and visually impaired people to live a better life. And I believe that we can achieve that through technology and innovation. But the base for all that, it is to have a sustainable business. So that's why we focus now on that. We focused on this year to finish the product and to start sales. And we did that. So one of the signs that we are also on the right path is also that we got investment. And this is how Feelif looks today. We have three models. We have a gamer, creator, and a pro. We are working in three directions: education, entertainment, and everyday practical apps. So in the field of education, we have developed apps for learning geometric functions, learning Braille alphabet, drawing, where blind people can draw in 4 different colors and share their drawings over email. And we have a special app for teachers, which is called Feel Bookmaker, where teachers can create tactile books, which can be then played on any Feelif device. In the field of entertainment, we are developing digital games for blind people. So we developed chess, Connect 4, memory, snakes and ladders, battleships, and so on. And for everyday practical apps, we developed a camera for blind, so blind people can take pictures, and a picture gallery app where they can then feel these pictures. And this gallery app is also connected with artificial intelligence software, which then recognizes what's on the picture. So it tells the blind person, like, this is a bottle and a glass, and this is a table, and they can feel that also. And what we did, we did a plugin for a browser. So when they browse it on the web, any web, when they get to the picture, they can open that picture in the picture gallery so they can feel it, and then when they close it, they go back to the browser and they continue browsing. So now they can really search the web and feel the content of the pictures. And why bother? So while writing this speech, I was thinking about why we started this journey and what keeps us going. As we recently organized a giveaway, messages from participants started pouring. And they single-handedly dispelled any doubts about quality and cause of our work. And I would like to share some of them with you. I will read this one. It will be an honor to win in your contest. My daughter is 5 years old, and this phone will be of benefit to her, since here in the Philippines, we only have limited access to resources for the blind. Thank you. And another one, I know a little boy who would love this smartphone. He is blind and has been battling cancer. The whole community is doing this in hopes we can give it to him. And there are much more similar stories. So the only thing that matters is what your customers, your users have to say. If they are happy with what you do, go for it. You will see, if you are persistent enough, you will always find a way. So, thank you.
Dear Željko, I couldn't imagine a better end of our conference. It was so inspiring and it was so much moving about your mission and your resilience, your resistance, and your will to help. So it was, I only can be grateful that you are with us. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.
We don't have a lot of time for discussion and question and answers, unfortunately. I suggest to separate our questions to two types. Maybe the people in the room, from the blind people in the room, maybe they will have some special questions to you, and maybe, I don't know if you bring some of your devices,
I did, yeah.
but you can, maybe I can ask to do that in outside when we finish,
yeah.
and then I'm sure that we have many people who would have additional questions to you, and maybe I will ask them to ask more general questions and maybe questions about your path, your story, your business. I will just have only 2-3 questions from the audience, because, and I have to especially thanks to the translators and to the technical staff, because we are running out of time, they have to leave, but thank you for staying with us a few more minutes more. Okay, okay, so now we have some time for questions. You can ask in Bulgarian, of course. Може да питате на български. Ако някой иска да зададе въпрос.
If there are any questions, feel free to ask in either Bulgarian or English.
Interesting story. Did you finally reach the audience of deaf and blind people at one and the same time?
Could you please repeat the question?
Deaf and blind people.
Did you manage to reach also this audience not only of blind people but deaf blind people?
No. That was we tried with that, but then at some point we realized that it just cannot work. You know, we couldn't have access to them in Slovenia. And from abroad, we would have to, I don't know, travel to a different country to test the product. And no, we then in this process learned what blind people need, what they need, what problems they face, and then we actually made a pivot, you know, towards that direction. Yeah.
Thank you. Други въпроси?
Any other questions? Any other questions?
First of all, the last question, yes, I can demonstrate you after this. So I'm leaving tomorrow, you know, so today I have the whole day or the rest of the day, and I can show every one of you, you know, how it works. The price for the Feelif you can see on the internet also. We have 3 models. We have one model for €700, the another for 1,500 euro, and for 2,500 it's a pro version.
Други въпроси? Да.
Здравейте.
For a blind people, when they start really young to learn Braille alphabet. This happens at I don't know when they are 4 years old, 5 years old, you know. Yeah, there is no age limit, you know, and we have also games there, so they can play games, and these games are not some I don't know, stupid games. These are games that are also developing their cognitive skills, you know. So everything from I don't know, from knowing what is a table, you know, that you have some columns and rows, you know, this concept has to be developed, and if you don't see, then you need someone to teach you that, you know. So this and of course things that are very useful nowadays, like a double click, you know. So lots of blind people have at the beginning also that problem to do that, you know. And by playing games, you know, you just develop that skill, you know. So.
Може би ще ви помоля за още един или максимум.
One or maximum 2 more questions if there are such. Well, thank you. We are really all impressed and we'll be following your success in the future, hopefully.
at the end, some final words to the audience?
No, I think I said everything. I mean, I deliberately made this speech to be, I hope, motivational, you know, so that you see that it's not just to have an idea how to solve something, but you really have to, you know, push and believe in it and push again, you know, to make something moving. So that's what I wanted to say. So it's not usually the established organizations, you know, they might have a different view and they might feel even threatened that now things will change, you know. But that's completely normal, you know. So, and for me, the only thing that really matters is what users have to say. So if they like it, you know, the change will come.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Добре, в такъв случай аз so I can invite outside, you can continue with the testing, but before that let's finish our 2 days conference. So I will switch into Bulgarian now. Аз ще помоля нашата изпълнителна директорка госпожа
And I'm going to ask our executive director, Sofia to say a few concluding remarks. The only thing I'm going to say is a huge gratitude to all of you who helped us make this possible. We are very grateful to our technicians, to the interpreters, to the people from streamer.bg, and most of all to thank the wonderful team of Reach for Change Bulgaria and our volunteers. They're all here. I'm not going to say names because I would not like to skip a name, but I'm very grateful to the team, to everyone involved, to the volunteers, to everyone who did a great job. This was an extraordinary event. Maybe I'm not the right person to say this, but that's how I feel it, and I'm very grateful to the audience who stayed here and was with us over this couple of days. And now Sofia Breitholz has the floor for concluding remarks.
Thank you. I'm not going to say anything too extensive because I'm standing in between you and lunch. So I would never presume to do that. Just to say that I think it's been a really inspiring couple of days. I hope you feel the same. Not only have we traveled from the Balkans, including or excluding Bulgaria, to the Scandinavian countries, to other examples across Europe, we have also traveled between sectors. And I think this has been a continuous theme throughout the 2 days. We have worked and heard experiences from the public sector, from the fantastic launch yesterday when we had representation from the EU Commissioner and we had representation from the Mayor and from the Minister, and to traveling to the corporate sector where we've really heard from partners such as Nova, ING, Telenor, AstraZeneca. I'm not going to say anymore because I'll forget them, but ... And to the fantastic social entrepreneurs, both part of the Reach for Change portfolio, but also outside, and just culminating in this really fantastic and inspirational session that we just heard here. And I think this really embodies the theme of partnership. And it's great that we've had this opportunity also through the EU to be able to organize this conference, to be able to share these reflections, and hopefully you can bring these best practices with you in creating your partnerships, because we really all have the same theme in mind. And I'm not sure if you were realizing that, but everybody talking from their different sectors and experiences, we all have one common goal, and that's to, you know, find innovative solutions really for social change. And so I think that being unified in that common goal is a huge strength. And so thank you to all of you who have come here, but I also want to say a really, really big and special thank you to Yuri. please come and stand up here. I mean, it's super. It's really a testament to your commitment and your network that you have managed to pull this off, and you would not have pulled this off without your fantastic team. So, Kristina, maybe you want to come up here, all of you, please. Because I don't know if you guys know that the background to all of these conferences, yes, it's a lot of work in the making to make sure that you have food and programs, and yeah, all the speakers have seen, you have the most detailed programs ever that you've received. So thank you.